It's Just Business with Steve Thomas and your host, Chris Larry.
Hello and welcome to another episode of It's Just Business on the Hogstein Network, the show where we look at the dollars and the cents of the sports media business industrial complex in all its workaday world. How you doing today, Steve?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. How is upstate New York?
I'm in the city for now.
Okay.
I hope to get up there tomorrow morning. Actually, everything's fine. Spring has sprung.
Have you been anywhere interesting over the past couple weeks?
I've been in Atlanta this past week. I was in Montreal. But that's about it.
I have my job does not require me to travel much, so I have to live vicariously through Chris, who's
Montreal
selling
was actually
nonprofit
impersonal.
stuff.
But yeah, I would, and I think I might have even said I should have maybe would have been in Zambia, but that all fell through.
I don't know
Um,
if you want to go to Zambia without a
well,
whole lot of shots.
that's what the giant, well, not that angle, but that's what the giant conference that we would have been attending discovered at the very last second that maybe that was not where to place your bet on a stable place to
Because I
host
know
a
like the
conference.
nature of what your nonprofit is, it's kind of brings yourself into that world because it's you're kind of loosely connected to what cyber currency and whatnot, right?
Well, yeah, we exist within a digital ecosystem, Steve.
Right.
Um, global digital ecosystem, I meant to say. Yeah, so no, but this had nothing. I mean, we were going to be attending. It's just basically this gigantic digital rights conference, and they keep stepping in it and where they try to partner, and they had the rug pulled out from under them 4 days before the event was set to take place.
A lot of people lost a lot of travel money.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was probably now this is going to be a drop in the bucket compared to the things we talk about here regularly, but it was probably a $3 million loss easily, and that's not even counting downstream effects.
Well, I exist within an ecosystem of lots and lots and lots and lots of actual American dollars to the point where my organization does not like digital anything and won't even let me use a thumb drive to be out of fear of corruption from from viruses. And there's no digital currency involved in all of these deals I'm doing. All of it's millions and millions and millions of dollars, way too much in some cases.
Yet. Um. All right, Steve. Let's jump into
Well,
it.
yeah, it's granted, but I
Yeah.
mean,
It's
it's
coming.
in my world. It's no time soon.
We'll see.
It's not.
Actually, a funny, because in Nepal just recently elected. I think they actually call. I think the position is a president, and it's a fairly democratic system. Although it's one of those like parliamentary things, so they change their T-shirts all the time in terms of who has parliamentary control. But the latest president of Nepal is 37. He's a former rapper who basically got his campaign was organized and run through the message board company or platform Discord and
Sounds a
and
lot like Zoran Mandami, a 37-year-old former rapper.
hey, and he is like he's like thrown a cinder block on the gas pedal towards digitization. So there's weird things happening all over the world.
Listen, that's Nepal, though. We're talking about the largest economy in the world here in the United States.
Okay, I'm not saying it, I'm not doing either or, Steve. I'm just saying interesting things happen.
It's weird that Nepal is the one. Yes, I grant you that. To me, I think if you're going to be the president of Nepal, you need to climb Mount Everest to prove that you're worthy. Otherwise, you shouldn't be able to run.
Yeah, okay. I think most of it they just enjoy making money off the rich guys that try to climb Mount Everest because they
Oh,
laugh at
there's
them
no
on the
doubt
way
about
up.
that. Because I do think that. I mean, I've obviously never done that. And I'm assuming you haven't either, but I think
No.
it's a pretty hefty fee to even attempt it. If I recall, I think there's some sort of rights fee you have to pay.
Oh yeah, totally. Plus, I mean, you need serious gear. I mean, it's not a poor
Well,
man's
and most
sport.
people have the experts, who are getting them up the mountain,
Yeah,
these Sherpas and whatnot.
yeah.
I don't think there's very many people just, well, one, you can't just show up with some hiking boots and go, okay, we're here. It is not that kind of mountain. You do have to actually climb things. And so you have to have the right gear and the right knowledge. And most people are afraid to do it without the experts, rightfully so, because there's a lot of dead bodies up Mount Everest.
Yeah.
But I do think if you're going to run for president of Nepal, you need to prove yourself by climbing Mount Everest first.
All
Not
right.
voting for you unless you make it to the peak. Prove your manliness. Come on.
I can only laugh at that one, Steve. It's the only rejoinder. Um, all right, Steve, we're gonna get into this. We now know the unfortunately retroactive cast for Netflix's um, hotly anticipated hit reality show Quarterbacks. Such a hit that they brought it back from the dead. They tried that wide receivers year and it tanked. So they're like, oh, quarterbacks are king, and it is Baker Mayfield, Joe Flacco, Jaden Daniels, and Cam Ward. And this covers, by the way, the 2025 season. Um, yeah, where are we going with this one, Steve?
Well,
I know you love the soap opera of reality television, behind the
oh,
scenes
it's
quarterbacks.
oh yeah, of course, it's my thing. But what I just and I get it. I mean, sports has become reality TV basically for a certain subset of society. I understand that. But look, I think all of these shows have to be a distraction for the players involved. Okay, that's what I don't like about any of this. Um, Jane Daniels had a bad year last year, and he's been in more and more commercials and more media and whatnot. And if I were any of these guys, certainly the younger ones like Cam Ward and Gene Daniels, I mean, Joe Flacco's like, what is he, 38 or something? At this point, it
I
is
think he's
what it
40.
is. Yeah, whatever. He's one of the oldest quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, nothing's going to bother him. But if I was a young guy, man, I wouldn't want a bunch of cameras hanging around all the time. I think it's a distraction. It certainly, at a minimum, isn't good for my development as a quarterback. And that's why I don't like these things.
Uh,
You're gonna say I'm being
yeah,
stodgy,
it's
and I
ridiculous.
get it, but
Um,
if I were any of these teams, again with the exception of Flacco, probably I would say no.
well, first of all, quarterback is a great show. I highly enjoy
I've
it.
never seen a single minute of it.
It is fascinating. It is a good time. It was an absolute brilliant way for Netflix to enter into the NFL, which is essentially what it did. It bridged them. I find it hysterical because they could after the first season, they couldn't actually. One of the reasons that they did, I think, wide receivers as the second season is because actually, to your point, they couldn't find anyone to do it. And this is after the first season was a hit. So this isn't, and with Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, um, uh, I forget who else. The Commanders' backup quarterback. Um, and a
Marcus
couple,
Mariota.
yeah, Marcus Mariota. And I can't remember who the fourth one was that year. Who cares? So they couldn't find anyone to do it, probably for some of the reasons that you're naming. So they did wide receivers. No one watched, and then they returned. And now, apparently, I think now there are obviously these quarterbacks who are somewhat lining up. I haven't heard any stories about them not being able to find participants now, probably going back to like 2022, 23. So, yeah, I mean, I guess those fears have dropped within these quarterbacks willing to do the show. I guess. I mean, I think you're way overblowing the level of distraction this is. I mean, I
Well, I
think.
mean,
I
we don't
mean,
have
what's
to
his
agree.
Mahomes won a Super Bowl while he filmed his, I believe.
Well, I mean, look, I mean, I think there's a difference between as high, one a team as high as profile as the Chiefs, and the highest profile player in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, who has cameras around him all the time anyway, or a significant amount of time anyway. There's a difference between a guy like that and again, a guy like Joe Flacco and a bunch of young guys who need to focus on football. Cam Ward and Jane Daniels are years last year were years 2 and 1. They don't need this kind of distraction. The team doesn't need these kind of distractions. I get it that again,
Well,
Patrick
the
Mahomes,
team
that's the
clearly
difference.
needs these levels of distraction because these things are major accelerators to their overall business model. I mean, these
Well,
things output like 30, 60, 120-second clips, which are the lifeblood of marketing. So, like, from a team perspective, it's a no brainer. And I don't, like, if they can decide what the level of distraction is, and, reasonable people can agree or disagree about what that is, but it's obviously good for the team.
well, see, you just hit on it. It's obviously good for the team in marketing. It's not good for the team at all in actual performance on the field. You hit on the key issue, actually. Certainly the marketing, every marketing staff would want cameras from Netflix's shows following their team around. Absolutely. Because yeah, I'm sure there was a bunch of probably YouTube shorts and all of that probably out there, I would assume. And so, yes, from a marketing perspective and a business perspective, it's building a fan base. It's feeding the existing fan bases, some red meat about their favorite players. I'm agreeing with you on all that. What I'm saying is, from an on the field, from a coaching perspective, from a player development perspective, some of these guys don't need the distraction of having a bunch of cameras around. That's what I'm saying. And if I was a huge fan of any of these teams, I'd rather not have this show and I'd rather have my team do well. That's my point.
In some kind of clean room, of course, you would say, well, if I would, probably better off, for on the field if they didn't do this. But that's just not it's just not the reality of the situation here. And the team is obviously going to do these things because, like they have such a brand revitalization or rebirth or relaunch, however you want to frame it. They've got so much catching up to do that the team can survive Jaden Daniels being RG4 better than they can survive a dying brand after the money that they
Well, it's
pumped
not
in the amount
just
of partners.
Washington. Also, I mean, does Cam Ward need this kind of distraction? Cam Ward needs to perform. So all I'm saying is, what I'm saying, we're going to disagree on that part. What I'm saying is, there's a difference between what is good for the team on the field and versus what obviously every marketing department of every franchise would want this. Obviously, there's no question, but that's not the point I'm making.
Um, and ultimately the player. Well, I just don't. I guess the difference is I don't think it makes a marginal enough difference where if you're looking at this, multifactorially, then the benefit to the overall franchise health it probably outweighs a probably relatively minuscule margin of difference it makes to their on the field
Well,
performance.
for example, look at Chase Young. Now, the question would be Chase Young got involved in tons of marketing stuff. He got involved in
None
some.
of it that had to do with the team. None of it that was team organized, team central about being in the building about
I,
so
I
all
get it,
there.
but it was
But
still
that's a
distracted.
no. That's a wildly different situation.
I don't think
Wildly.
it's at all. I think
No,
it's the exact
Steve.
same.
One thing is literally working with the team in concert on everything about being. The other one was being the other one was explicitly separate and away from the team.
It's still a bunch of cameras around the guy.
Ah, come on, that's ridiculous. That really
I
is
don't think
that
so.
dog don't
And
hunt. It makes no
and the
sense. It
question
makes
would be,
no sense.
it's exactly the same.
No, it's not. It's not even remotely the same thing.
There's
One
no
thing,
difference at all.
in
It's
fact, those
still
Chase Young
distraction.
things weren't even mostly what was like weren't even
Well,
necessarily on
you're not
camera
even letting me get
things.
my
All
the
right,
question I'm presenting
silly.
with it is, was Chase Young's ultimate failure as a player relative to his draft status, did it have anything to do with all the media attention, or is it because he just couldn't do it? And we don't have the answer to that. We'd be speculating, but that's the question. So
Well,
if Jane Daniels
all of
or
this is
Cam Ward,
speculation.
of course it is. So if Jane Daniels or Cam Ward, either or both of them don't make it, how much would the media attention around them have to do with it? I don't know the answer, but that's the question I'm asking.
I don't see how you can really draw a comp that makes your point where one thing is a completely coordinated triple level thing between the individual, the team, and the NFL, and in a media company, where the majority of the footage is on the game or stuff that happens on the sidelines. So a lot of it is stuff there's already cameras. You haven't watched an episode for one thing, Steve. So
Oh, I know.
so let's start there. But majority of it is what they call B-roll, or stuff that they're getting from the networks. And then there's not, and it's in 6 hours of shared. Now they went, actually, the first season was three quarterbacks. Now they're up to four, with very structured. We're going to show you at the workout room, or we're going to show you in the team hall, or we're going to show you working out at the facility. Maybe a couple of extrastitials about him and his mom going out to dinner. It's not as nearly as intrusive as you think, and it's all coordinated to be
That's
within
just
the
what you
construct
see,
of his
though.
job.
That's just what makes it to the show. How often are the cameras around him to get all that
All of
footage?
that's they don't have unlimited access.
I don't
So
know if they
all of
do or they don't. I don't
yeah,
know.
yes, I do. I know how these things are shot. These are yes, you do. You don't know. You wouldn't.
I'm not saying they're around him
They're
100% of the
contractually
time.
obligated.
Obviously, of
They know
course
we
not.
have 10 access of 10 hours a week. They know that down to the second, and it's team managed. That's my
Yeah,
point.
but
Chase Young was doing something so far outside of any part of his job or team control that they are not. They are that is apples and flank steak.
no, I think it's exactly the same. But we don't know how much access this show has to the quarterbacks. We know I haven't seen the show. You've seen it. We know what makes it onto the show. We don't know how many hours a week they have. We don't
But
know
the
how
NFL
intrusive.
and the team do. The
Yeah,
player
but
does,
the
and I'm
question
sure
I'm
it's
asking,
contractually it's set by the to the minute.
oh, I'm sure it is set by the minute. But the point is, how much is it, and how intrusive is it on team operations? I don't know, and neither do you. We weren't there. Maybe it's not at all. Maybe it's not at all, but I suspect it probably is a hassle for these players, and I suspect it's a distraction to have cameras around.
Well, then do they like the TV money, and do the players like
Of course,
the
well, of course the team
expanding
likes the TV
payroll,
money.
or
That's why
do
they
they
do it.
not? Right. So I'm not.
But it's two separate questions. The marketing aspect and the
No,
business aspect of it is one
no,
thing.
it's
The other aspect is what effect has it on team development when they're trying to practice and learn and study in the building. That's two totally separate questions. That's why I've always questioned shows like this.
no. I think this is ridiculous. I
We
think
can agree to disagree.
in fact, your argument is counter to the whole concept of our show.
Well, of course, it's counter to the whole show. The whole show, I mean, the show wants
And so
to
this is what
entertain the audience. They don't care
no, no,
about the
no.
impact on the team.
Our
Oh,
show.
well, I mean, it's just business. I know why they're doing it. It's just business part is they want to make money. Of course, I mean, I understand that. Well, all I'm saying is, if I were a team, I'm not sure I'd want this. If I were the football side of it, I'm not sure I'd want it.
And
The
yeah,
team
plenty
is
of
doing it in if it's in conjunction with the theme of our show, they're obviously doing it for money. Of course, it's greater marketing and income. I mean, I'm not disputing that.
but that also means there's more money in the pockets of the players, which they also know that.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah, of course. And the league as a whole, it may be subject to, I don't know if that level of team income is distributed. It may be. Yes, I get it, but that's all. The point is, I'm not questioning why they're doing it. I know why they're doing it. All I'm saying is, if I were a football person, I wouldn't want the distraction. That's my point.
Well,
And
if
I
we
think
look,
there are players, and maybe Chase Young isn't the best example, but there are players that have underperformed because of the media distractions around him, in my view.
sure, but not 100% coordinated by the league and its partners, which is what this is.
Is that really true though? I mean, if you look at like HBO, what's the show? Hard Knocks, which first of all, I think Hard Knocks has gone downhill in recent years, number one. But beyond that, I mean, it sure has looked like some of those teams, it's been a massive distraction in training camp. And for some of those players, I mean, again, they're doing it for the reasons you're suggesting, which is it's good for marketing, it's good for income, it's just business, they need the money. I get all that, you're right about all that. All my point is, from the beginning, has been all of these shows are a distraction from the player's ability to develop.
I
That's all
know
my point is.
sometimes arguing about this stuff on the margins about the NFL is silly just because of their dominance. However, anybody, any business or media analysis of the problem, which I laugh as I say this, the problem with football is that the relative facelessness of its athletes. They're in helmets, they're in
This
pads,
is why they do shows like
right.
this.
So if the league, which the proper analysis is that's enough. So getting these kind of FaceTime things, which now is this is this goes back to the 70s, right? Like you can even there's all even the concept of NFL films was which is is a hallowed part of NFL lore and practice and media growth. They knew they had to tell FaceTime stories. So to me, there's nothing different about why they're doing Hard Knocks or Quarterback that hasn't been the long-term multi-decade strategy of the NFL's rise and growth. And so they are always, and for smart reasons, I don't even say it as a cynical business reason, they're going to accept some kind of slight, and they know these things way better than you and me. I grant us, all of us listening, most people outside of anything but what's inside that building. But they are making some very wise calculation that the marginal difference in on the field distraction is infinitely tradable for the maximalization of their sport, which being able to maximize FaceTime has been a driving factor in their success.
Well, okay, I have been in the building for an NFL team, and like what I can tell you is there's a huge divide between the business and marketing staffs and the football staffs. Okay. Now, I never got involved in any media, in shows like this. That wasn't my universe. I was doing marketing agreements for them. Okay. But I'm not sure how much coordination there really is with this. I don't know. I didn't see any evidence to either say yes or no as to whether the marketing and business staffs that are signing up for shows like this actually are coordinating with the football staff to any great extent. I didn't see that one way or the other. And so but I can tell you that there is a huge divide between business and the sports staff on all of these teams because I saw it and I was involved in it. So I don't know. Are they going to even ask or coordinate with the coaching staff about signing up for Netflix's quarterback show? They might not. I mean, I did media deals where we were volunteering, we were signing up to have players do things, and nobody asked the players. Nobody asked a single one of them. It was stuff like, must produce 6 players, including 2 premium players, 3 times a week for this and that, and nobody asked the football. But we didn't ask the football people anything about it. Zero. That's my point. And those are minor. And this, you're not going to compare my dumb marketing deals with Netflix. Don't get me wrong, but that's what I saw.
I'd be.
That's what I did.
I'm dubious the idea that whatever within these organizations over the years that is head of football operations was not in coordination or knowledge of accepting to do
I'm
these
saying
things.
I never saw it. Never met the head of I met the head of the football operations once by accident, walking in the building. That was it. Never talked to him again. It was always a business staff.
So you think John Harbaugh had no say when the Ravens were on Hard
I'm
Knocks when they were making that decision?
I'm questioning whether he did. I don't know that to be fact. I'm questioning even if he knew about it, did he have a vote or was it like, look, deal with this dude because we're doing it?
That is, to me, that's the way to frame the question. Was it a mandate or was he part of a
And I
conversation?
don't know the answer to that. And that's what I'm
Yeah.
asking. What I am saying is from my experience with NFL marketing deals, we never ever once dealt with the football stuff. Now, maybe they were dealing with it and they don't need the lawyer around to deal with it. That's entirely possible. They also never mentioned it.
Well, I just wish Jaden Daniels didn't do it because now that I'm not going to watch this season of quarterback because I don't want to. I don't want to relive this season. That season. I'll live
That's a
remix
whole
it.
nother point. You don't want to suffer through your team
Yeah.
being bad another year, I guess.
Yes, that is horrifying. Now this I'm gonna live DJ into one of our next topics. I'm actually
Okay.
going to go to the NHL John Tortorella story, he's the head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights, which a little minor hockey aside. This team has barely existed for 10 years. They've gone into the Western Conference Finals like 6. So if anyone wants to tell you that you can't do an expansion team to dominance and 0 to 100, just point them to the Vegas Golden Knights. But anyway, their coach basically blocked out the media post an easy second round clinching victory game. So there's no controversy, and it wasn't like my guys are crying in there and I'm going to keep the media out because we had such a crushing loss, right? No, this was after breezing into the Western Conference Finals. And the reason I bring this story up next is because the NHL wasn't messing around. They were like, if you aren't, and I'm sure John Tortorella type, who I know and don't really care for as a hockey coach, he doesn't want to go out there and lick the boots of the media. Is probably the way he, in his head, he can do what he wants. But the NHL was like, nobody, you can't. It was a pretty hard. I mean, what was $100,000 fine to him personally, and then a loss of a draft pick.
Yeah. First of all, just to go backwards, I didn't give the story site for the quarterback Netflix thing. It was Bleacher Report, Baker Mayfield headlines, quarterback season 3 from Netflix, full cast release date revealed by Doric Sam, May 13th. And so the story that Chris is now talking about is the Golden Knights story. This is ESPN. And it is called Golden Knights Loose Pick Coach Fined for Boxing Out Media by Ryan Clark, dated May 15th. Yeah, so they lost the second round draft pick. The coach himself personally received $100,000 fine for flagrant violations. And basically what they did is they just didn't let the media in at all. And this is after a win, as for a series clinching win, by the way. It's not like they lost 7-0 and got flushed out of the playoffs. This is after a win in Game 6 of the Western Conference semifinals. And I mean, I applaud the coach, for having the chutzpah to do this, but I mean, he's knowingly violating, the NHL's media rules in doing this. And so here's the story says, here's the quote from the NHL. In a release, the NHL said that, quote, the imposition of these penalties comes after previous warnings were issued to the club regarding their compliance with the media regulations and other associated policies. So that means that he's done stuff like this before, or threatened to, or delayed media access, and the league has warned him before. And so this penalty, loss of a draft pick and a pretty large fine, is not completely out of left field. This apparently comes from after repeated warnings, to use their words, that we just aren't aware about. And there, by the way, it looks like the team has an opportunity to appeal the sanctions. I don't know what their argument would be in an appeal necessarily. Yeah, we did it because take sympathy on us.
I would bet here's their argument if I was filing the appeal for them, that because John Tortorella has got such a so to your point, Steve, that he's getting slapped with this because of previous violations. He's the type of guy whose shelf life, I mean, he's probably on his 6th or 7th NHL team. He's the kind of guy who has a shelf life of about 2 years. And so he's the type, so he's the best press conference in NHL coaching, right? Like next question type, or throw a fit on, so he's got
Bill Belichick of
he's got or losing his mind. He's got a real reputation. So if I was the Vegas Knights, I'm like, so you're unfairly taking the draft pick away from us for something that you made as a reputational award, basically, for Tortorella's 15 years of these kinds of actions. So find him all you want, but give us our draft pick back.
The Golden Knights didn't have to hire a guy with that kind of reputation either.
That would be the counter argument. But yeah, this is all about his this is this guy, so this is why they come down a little harder.
Now the Golden Knights issued a statement that says exactly 0. It says they issued a statement on social media saying they were aware of the league's announcement regarding the post-game media availability and would have no further comment. So congratulations on explaining your position, Golden Knights, so well. Look, I mean, I'm the type that doesn't like to be told what to do, and I understand that. And I'm kind of as Chris knows, a massive, massive contrarian and everything. And so I applaud at some level the coach going, I don't care what the rule is. We're not doing it. And I don't feel like in the end, that's something I would do. However, what you did is you cost your organization a pretty massive penalty, which is losing a large draft pick. And that he needs to be more aware of. And that is something he shouldn't have done. That, he can cost himself however all the money he wants, but he really hurt the team by costing him a draft pick. And so in that respect, he's completely in the wrong.
And honoring your media commitments is a very, it's a red line. It's known. These are the have
Yes.
tos of your job, right? It's not like going up on your press conference and dropping a bunch of F bombs and picking up some fines or whatever. Doing your
It's
media obligations it is part and parcel to the sports
Yeah,
operation.
there's no question that he had to do it. And again,
It,
I mean, the contrarian in me loves it. He just basically gave him the middle finger. But the truth of the matter is, this is a standard modus operandi for all professional coaches in the NFL, NHL, NLB, and basketball every time. And he should know this. He
yeah,
does know this.
he does know this. Yeah, it is pretty funny. And after breezing through a playoff series, okay, pick your
That's why
spots. Pick your spots,
that's
folks.
what the most interesting part of this is. You didn't lose. You actually
No.
won a playoff series. So why are you mad all of a sudden like today?
Yeah, it's crazy. Now, in my excitement to argue about football, I jumped over my, relative blasé attitude about talking about baseball. But we actually had a different lead story, Steve, I now realize, and that is that Mariano Rivera, legendary, probably what the game's best closer,
Well,
or top three, top five.
I mean,
Um,
he's greatly helped by the fact that he's with the Yankees. So we'd have
yes,
to
a
look
lot
at
of
some
games to
stats, but
save. Um, But he has officially come out for a salary cap in Major League Baseball. And since we are careening into labor confusion as negotiations on the next labor contract begin, and as we've talked about many times and over many years, when this is, ebbed and flowed and contracts were due, uh, the salary cap or lack of a salary cap or what kind of salary cap or can anyone even mention salary cap is the number one labor point of contention in Major League Baseball. And here you have a legend of the sport, especially a legend of the sport, and it's kind of more modern era, although fading, saying yeah, it should.
the story here is CNBC. Yankees legend Mariano Rivera says he supports an MLB salary cap by Alex Sherman, who's one of our regulars, dated May 6th. Now, anybody who knows Mariano Rivera knows that he's a pretty level-headed guy. I think he's not flashy at all. I think he's known to be very, very low key. And so if somebody was going to tell the truth, somebody asked him, "Hey, Mariano, do you think there should be a salary cap?" He might have gone, "Yeah, yeah, it'd be better." What he said here is, to quote him, this is apparently during a Latinos in sports event in Miami on this past Friday, meaning 2 Fridays ago. Now, yes, this is his quote. Yes, there should be one because it has to be fair to everybody. It makes competition better. Um, and interesting, so this story, they make the point to say the MLB is the only major U.S. league without a salary cap. So the NFL has a hard cap. There's a little bit of education here, and Chris knows this, but um, there's a difference between a hard cap and a soft cap. Okay, the NFL has a hard cap. This year it's 301.2 million. You cannot, in the story, go above 301.2 million plus your rollover amount plus adjustments. That's it. Basketball has a soft cap wherein above a certain amount, there are exceptions where you can go above amount for various categories and whatnot. Baseball doesn't have a cap. What they have is a luxury tax above a certain amount. And so these teams like the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets, are making so much money they just pay the luxury tax and don't really care. And so Mariano's point, which I think we've said on this show, is a cap would help with competitive balance. But as the story makes the point known, and Mariano said this in here, it says Mariano said any salary cap should include provisions that the teams that spend the least also invest in improving competition some other way. There needs to be a floor because you have like the Tampa Bay Rays. You've got some other teams. That's not a good example this year since they're doing well, but there are teams that are routinely at the bottom. Pittsburgh Pirates, for example. Um, with a ceiling would have to come a hard floor to make people spend. Otherwise there's no point. Because then if you just cap it, you're just capping out the top, but you're not making the bottom do anything. And so it's both. And I think Mariano recognized that. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, yeah, it might as well be, he gave the Major League Baseball and the owners a commercial for their point. Um,
Yeah, he did. And you're never going to hear a player say it. It's very unusual that a player said this.
it would be fascinating to know how much of a person non grata Rivera made himself within, I mean, he's still in the union technically, I believe. I think, and retired players certainly benefit from
But it's notable
deal.
that he's not getting a salary as a player by the Yankees anymore. So he's excuse me, his income isn't affected.
No, right, yeah, yeah, but right. So I mean, from a I'm sure that he earned himself a bit of a scad reputation among some of the,
Oh,
uh,
there's no doubt about
yeah,
that. I mean,
yeah,
because there's some of these players, and these are more involved than others in these union negotiations. Some of these players can care less, and they just sign a contract. But there's some that are very involved and probably are cursing his name right now today.
totally.
He's right though. I mean, he's you know it, if you're going to take the position of supporting the league as a whole, the right thing would be to make every team spend more money. And the only way to do that is to have a better, more Karl Marx style, income distribution like the NFL. The NFL distributes a lot more money. There is some income in Major League Baseball is distributed, but it's very little. Whereas in the NFL, it's most of it, and that's the only way really to make it happen is you have to distribute income. Otherwise, the Pittsburgh Pirates of the world are going to say, "Hey, we can't afford it."
Basically, how do the teams within a league share the media deals? This is what this comes down to.
Basically, yes. And the problem, of course, is like, the NFL has national media. There's no such thing as local rights in the NFL. Okay. In preseason there is, but that's it. Major League Baseball, obviously, we spend a lot of time on this show talking about local rights deals. Um, and that's the problem. And so, like, for example, the Dodgers have a huge, huge, huge local media deal. That's why they can spend all the money they do. So the question would be, do you take a portion of that money and distribute it and say X% of every team's local media rights deals will be distributed around the league as a whole? That'd be the only way to do this. Or you just give baseball what they're not going to be able to do is give the league the rights, all the rights to every game. That's not a realistic. It's pie in the sky at this point.
I think we're going to see a salary cap. It may be a weak sauce. There's all these caveats. It's a whole Pythagorean theorem about how to get there. But we'll see a in this next contract that they sign eventually. If there's a lockout or a strike, who knows? Probably, maybe it's certainly on the table. But I think whatever happens on the other side will have at minimum a first significant step toward a salary cap. Salary
Do you
cap
think
light.
there will be a floor though? That's the question.
I think yes. I think it would have to come with that. I think that
I
would
don't
be
know how they
part of
do it
it.
without a floor. There's no point in it without a floor.
No, I agree with that. Now, to further emphasize the haves and have-nots of baseball, we have a kind of an interesting story that puts a kind of a fine point on this, as the Tampa Bay Devil Rays just got
Not Devil Rays.
oh,
That's a
is it Ray? What are they?
it's Tampa Bay Rays.
They used to be the Devil Rays, right? I think they
Yes.
were. Yes.
Yes.
Um,
They changed their name from Devil Rays to Rays in 2008.
yeah. Why did they do that? Devil Rays is way cooler. Um,
I
But
made
they
you lose
just,
your train of
yeah,
thought.
they
I'm
got a
sorry.
2 point something billion-dollar stadium approved, which is hysterical considering that the Forbes valuation list of Major League Baseball teams in 2000, according to 2025 data, had them at I think 1.25 billion valuation. So they're getting a very expensive new home. Maybe the timing was right since they've been playing decently for a while, but this seems like topsy turvy and a great example of the kind of the sort of wacky economics of baseball.
Because this is not their money. Okay. This is going to be mostly, if not all, public money. Okay. So first of all, the story here is Bleacher Report again. Um, Rays' new $2.3 billion stadium tentatively approved by local officials. Latest timeline revealed by Zach Bachar, May 14th, 2026. And it says that the Rays and Hillsborough County have entered into an MOU, meaning Memorandum of Understanding, on a proposal for a new stadium. This MOU is not binding. They've agreed on the preliminary terms. This is sort of an agreement on the basics, basically. And in the memorandum, the Rays estimated the cost of the stadium to be $2.3 billion, capacity of at least 31,000 seats, and ready in time for the 2029 season. And again, it does not say that the Rays are paying for this stadium. Okay. So yeah, there's no small amount of irony in the fact that they're playing in a stadium that's worth more than their team, And what's interesting to me about it, so yes, the Rays right now are in first place in the AL East. But if you go back to 2000, they have made the playoffs 9 times, 9 out of 27 seasons. 26, you don't count this year. They've been to 1 World Series, which they lost in 2020, and another one in 2008. So there's a lot of 4th, 3rd place, 5th place in here. They've been bad. And yet they're getting a stadium that's worth more than them. And so this is, the thread is the same for every team, right? You say, look, we have to have a stadium. We're going to leave. That's what they always say. And so it really comes down to, again, it's the same question for all of these. How much public funds should be spent on stadium to support a professional sports team? And every jurisdiction seems to do it. Is that good, that bad? I'd say it's more bad than good.
There's a couple contextual specifics here that do, I think, help tell or flesh out the story. One, you may remember that they had the roof ripped off of their current stadium, Tropicana Field, in that Hurricane Milton of 2024 that ripped through Tampa area and through other areas as well. But so, and it did after ripping the roof off, it did so much damage internally that they had to play, I think, last year at a different stadium, the George Steinbrenner Field, which is hysterical.
It really was George Steinbrenner Field.
Yeah.
The former owner of the Yankees.
Yeah. And I think it probably has something to do with like spring training or whatever. Who knows? But so there were extenuating circumstances in terms of this thing was pretty well damaged, and there's some city rebuilding. So I think this was an opportunity where building off of the hurricane probably drove some of the public's interest in investing in this. And this is a small point, but you have to have a covered stadium in Tampa just because of the rain,
the heat.
Yeah. So you do have more of a multi-event use venue than you might without a covered one. But I think that's a marginal thing.
Here's the Rays statement. This is from Rays Chief Executive Officer Ken Babby. The Tampa Bay Rays are delighted to announce that we have reached a memorandum of understanding on a new ballpark proposal, working alongside staff at Hillsborough County and the city of Tampa. We are extremely grateful for the commitment and the spirit of partnership demonstrated by all parties throughout this important process, occasion for our community. And the partnership part is the local county and the city will pay for everything, and the Rays will agree not to leave. That's the partnership. Basically, that's it. The limit of partnership over. And they've released some renderings of the stadium, which, look pretty cool. I got to say, it's going to be mixed use. All of these, it looks like Hillsborough College is involved somehow in the mixed use district that's near the Hillsborough College campus. So one point I like to make is all these stadiums now are mixed use, and so this is a way that the local folks can get some of their money back is through mixed use developments that are adjacent to it. And what I mean by that is commercial developments and then residential, usually multifamily. And so then the local government can either ground lease or sell the land to developers. And that's a way that they can recoup some of their money in this. And so that's a lot of big reason why they're doing commercial developments near all these places. And that's the same with this one. And so there's going to be mixed use around it. The days of people building stadiums in the middle of nowhere are over. Because again, it's the way people have to recoup the money because these are so expensive now. There's no stadium that's not under $1 billion now. It used to be you could build these things for 300 or 400 million, which is another story. But that's just not the case. Does this surprise me? No. Is it good for the public? Is it good for the government? Maybe not. How much is this? How much tax money is this, or bond money? It's probably bond money. How much bond money is this going to cost?
Yeah, if you're going to put your stadium nowhere, you have to have a plan for making the area somewhere. So
That's exactly right, and that's why, by the way, in like the case of the Washington Seawards new stadium, there's a whole plan for development around it. This is the same thing for this Tampa Bay Rays. But I think here's the point: if the Tampa Bay Rays can get a new stadium out of their local government, every team can get a new stadium. There's no team that's going to be said no to if the Tampa Bay Rays got one. A team that's very low profile, not an outstanding franchise.
They're the third team in its market because obviously the Bucks are number one, for all the reasons. And then actually the number two team in the market is the Tampa Bay Lightning hockey team because they're very, very popular and they're very good and they've won multiple Stanley Cups and they're usually in the mix every year. So, and that's gone on for 2 decades. So there's no calculus that has the Rays any higher than third in its market in terms of professional sports teams.
Yeah. And in terms of Major League Baseball, yes, I grant you that certainly they're good right now, but this is not a high profile team in Major League Baseball. I mean, it's not. And this is what I'm saying. There is no team that can't get a stadium out of a local government. If the Rays can do it, literally everybody can do it. That's my point.
Now I'm obsessed with why they changed their name.
Chris is gonna have to find this here real quick. I don't know why. I don't remember. I remember it happening. I really don't know. I don't know why. So, but how many new stadiums is this? It's. I mean, we've seen several just this year alone. The Titans. Remember the Titans? We've had one. The deal. Washington. There's been several. Chris is.
I have it.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh my God, it's so bad. The Tampa Bay Rays dropped Devil from their name after the 2027 season to facilitate a massive rebranding aimed at shedding the franchise's losing history. So basically, it was like, don't associate us with how bad we've been. Ownership also wanted to move away, which is what I would have guessed. Ownership also wanted to move away from the word devil because it was a source of constant complaints from religious community and community groups. The rebrand shifted the team's identity to the Rays. This is where the above two things at least make logical sense to me. This part gets funny. The rebrand shifted the team's identity to the Rays, turning a Marine reference into a brighter, more positive concept. The concept of a ray of sunshine. The new name primarily represented beams of sunlight to reflect Florida's nickname, the Sunshine State.
The Sunshine State.
So I still thought it referenced like, a manta ray, like which
That's
the
what
devil
I
ray
thought.
is
You're telling me that rays are rays of sunshine?
rays of sunshine.
That's the most pathetic reason to change a name I've ever heard in my life. I was today years old when I didn't realize that it wasn't a ray as a fish somehow or some aquatic.
Yeah. No.
Aquatic. Yeah. Is that a mammal?
No,
some
it's not. It's a fish.
Yeah. Well, I'm speechless about that. That is the stupidest name change I've ever. That might have Commanders beat as the name change stupidity.
If you would have told me I had to guess, I would have said, "Oh, I'm sure enough religious people complained about devil that they got sick of
Yes,
it."
that's what I
And
thought. Yeah,
yeah,
devil is religious, and
and I
yeah.
could even say, like, sometimes just sort of like tweaking a name can help us to, like, kind of forget our, horrible past. Both those things, whether I agree with them or not is immaterial. I can understand the logic behind that decision making. The rays of light, that is, and also, what's wrong with the poor manta ray? It's actually a great Florida,
So, what is the mascot for the Tampa Bay Rays? Then is it
Yeah, I was
a
gonna say the
walking
how.
sunbeam? So now Chris is looking this up, right? We're gonna find out here.
It's just like the name Ray. Oh, okay, so it's Ray, but there is a sun twinkling in the inside loop of the R.
Oh my goodness. I just can't even with this. I mean, these teams. Let's see. We're gonna type something into the Google machine here. What is the Tampa Bay Rays mascot?
Right? Who's dressed up in what's the
Okay,
silly suit?
so Google AI tells me that the primary mascot for the Tampa Bay Rays is something called Raymond, which is a fuzzy, bright blue creature officially described as an undiscovered species of dog known as
What?
Canis manta. What the flu phallus, according to the Tampa Bay Times.
Okay,
Yeah,
that just
I'm serious. And then there's apparently two secondary mascots that it says regularly appear at Tropicana Field. One is DJ Kitty, a cat character inspired by the internet famous DJ Dancing Cat. And then something called Stinger, which is a friendly cow-nosed stingray who acts as the designated greeter for the Tampa Bay Rays touch tank.
yeah, I'm seeing images of all three of these now. Yeah. That this just keeps getting stranger. This is weirder than the city ponying up for the
It
stadium.
is weirder for sure. That wasn't very abnormal. This is your team's officially named after a ray of sunshine, and your mascot is an unknown species of dog for some reason.
Well, I already have our episode thumbnail picked out,
Oh, there you go.
so it
Don't get.
saves me 5 minutes of work.
I will. We'll take the chance on the copyright strike or on the trademark strike. We'll risk it. Good God, is that dumb?
There's a couple good pictures of all three of those creatures that you just described side by side.
Well, now we know. You're welcome, people. This is an example of what not to do in marketing.
Oh man, I mean, these mascots I mean,
No
it would make
sense at
more sense
all.
to just send somebody out in a sun costume, right? If that was what they were trying to
Yeah.
do.
Well, walking. I thought we were going to see a walking sunbeam or
Yeah,
something.
we have a meme cat, a bizarre penis blue monster, and then a callback to a looks like he's almost wearing a beret, a French, ray creature actually, which is like if you were trying to move away from it, why are you still bringing along that guy? Who knows? Who knows?
That's officially my vote for the stupidest mascot in American major professional sports.
Wow. Some people, not everyone can be gritty, I guess.
No.
All right, Steve. So, what stories are you tracking in the Washington C words world?
Well, frankly, it's coming to downtime here. So we are doing our position group breakdown series, of course, which is my attempt to fill, part of an hour every week with breaking. Now that the draft and free agency is over, we talk about each position group as we go, and we're doing all of the regular news and stuff, and we're sort of doing draft pick analysis one by one. And you can hear all that regularly every Thursday on the Hog Style podcast and in all of our regular written content.
All right, and we will see you in 2 weeks.